All right, back to breaking the fourth wall. It is, well, I guess we should be semi-professional about this, right, Mickey? My name's Zach Anderson, Pettet VP Fintech Strategy here at Money 2020. We are here with David Sandstrom, the man, the legend, somebody I got to see this morning, CMO at Klarna. Mickey, who are you?
I'm Mickey. I think
handled that one real quick.
there we
Moving
go.
down the line.
Mickey, content team, Money 2020 Europe. And first of all, can we start with this concoction that
I was
you
about
put
to
right
get
in
to
front
that
of
next.
us?
Yeah. So we were not recording a second ago, and then I'm forcing something odd upon both of these gentlemen, so we're going to try it together. So what we have here is the only ice that exists in Europe that I've been able to found that's it's at a booth down there. One shot of espresso, and then pour Coke over it. It's called Obesity and a Heart Attack in a Cup, but towards the end of a Money 2020, it'll get you going, and I'm going to find out if David's going to vomit now.
I don't hate it.
It's pretty good.
Semi-refreshing. There we go. All right.
Wouldn't pay for it, but it's good.
Well, we didn't, so we're here. There you go. Anyway, welcome to Everything is Fintech. It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It's going to be exciting, I presume.
Yeah, you're like, I don't really know what I got myself into, but I'm here, so we might as well have some fun with it.
Exactly.
So Mickey did the job of driving our earlier Everything is Fintech episode, so I'm in the driver's seat, and I think I want to start just kind of with how you got into advertising and into kind of the Mad Men world that it seems like you kind of come from. Granted, different time frame, but how did you kind of just start that trajectory of getting into advertising and getting into communications?
So, I mean, after whatever it is, I don't know the terms, but after high school, I think when you know,
Where are you from? I should start there.
born in the U.S.,
Okay.
grew up in Germany.
Okay.
I now live in Stockholm.
Gotcha. Okay.
Wow.
But after high school, I actually didn't know what to do. Right? I had no, like, I don't want to say I didn't have any dreams, but I was just like, yeah, I'm up for pretty much anything, right? So what you do then, you go to business school. At least if you're in Stockholm, you go to business school. It's broad enough, right? And since I didn't know what to do, I just piggybacked on everyone else at business school. And back then, everyone wanted to become a banker. Going to London, going to Goldman was the ambition for everyone. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'm pretty good at math. I'm pretty good with like generally okay-ish, right? I'll do that as well.
You can do stuff.
I can do stuff, right? So I pursued that. I actually went for an internship as an FX trader in London, and I absolutely hated it. It was the worst year of my life, working 80 to 100 hours a week with things I absolutely despised.
You do not have FX trader vibes.
No,
I will
I
tell
don't
you that
know.
much. You do not have that.
So I came back to Stockholm and said, hey, what else is there at this school that is not FX trading, right? Mm-hmm. And I was really interested in psychology. I was really interested in human behavior. I was really interested in business. And combining those things was marketing, right? It is about, consumer behavior. Why do people decide to, like an Audi over a BMW or the other way around? Like, it's a lot about human psychology when it comes to, like, how do you get people to like things, love things, recommend things, right? That is psychology. But I also didn't want to be a philosopher within psychology, right? I wanted to add the business part. And so
maybe make some money too.
Exactly.
Yeah,
fair.
As a former philosophy student, I won't take any offense to that.
Yeah. I forgot you majored in philosophy. Yeah.
So I got into marketing because that really combined the consumer behavior kind of thing with the business side, and started out with planning, consumer insights, all of that, and transitioned into more marketing and now a CMO-ish kind of role.
Yeah. Creeping on your LinkedIn, though, it seems like you've kind of done every version of a marketing thing. Like, it seems like you've done PR, you've done comms, you've done, seems like even performance marketing.
Yeah,
but
I just
more
lie
creative.
a lot on my LinkedIn.
I mean, me too. I actually didn't intern at the White House, but we don't need to talk about that. But it truly does seem like you've kind of done your time in the trenches. And I would imagine that's a part of how you've kind of ended up in this spot at Klarna.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've done a lot of different things, like a lot agency side in the beginning, right? Which is obviously great from one perspective, like you get to dip your toe into many different ponds. The issue is it's only just a toe, right? There's never any real accountability. That you don't really see things through. If things fail, you just shrug your shoulders and move on to the next client, right? You don't have to to stand there in shame in front of the rest of the organization, as I do nowadays when we do bad things, and we do from time to time, right?
I was going to say, not often. At least from the outside, it doesn't seem like
No,
you're
the
doing that
marketing,
often.
yeah, the
We
marketing
do. So
is
but
fire.
I've done a lot of things, which I also think is the prerequisite of a CMO role nowadays. I mean, I remember going to marketing school, and I think half of my class, they studied strategy, and I still can't wrap my head around studying strategy, because that is just like, it is just the accumulation of all the experience, everything you've seen, everything you've done. So I think you grow into strategy, you don't study that. And I think that's where I'm still very young though, for the record. But I've grown into
No one
that.
was second guessing you on that one.
No one was absolutely.
I mean, I studied entrepreneurship in school, and I don't think there is a single thing that you can, a single worse thing to learn in a classroom than entrepreneurship. So I agree completely. I mean, it's like I sat in that class with people telling me to go take risks, and I was sitting at a university in a seat. I was just like, this is the most ironic thing that ever existed. And then literally just left, started joining startups, and talked to my teacher into giving me a passing grade just because I was like, look, it's growing. Like, we raised the Series A, just let me out of school. But yeah, it requires some time in the trenches for sure.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Go ahead.
I thought it was really interesting when, like, the way you described marketing, right? Like, about psychology and behavior. I feel like that's one of the things that I don't see. I feel like that's starting to disappear a little bit from some marketing functions, because people getting so niche into specific types of marketing they do, but kind of forget that overall goal is ultimately to help people make a set of decisions.
Yeah, exactly. And people now, we're super data driven at Klarna. Like, we have data on exactly everything, everything, right? But I also think that there still is some craft to marketing, right? We need to be data driven. A lot of the things we do are performance based, obviously outcome based, right? But what has been slightly forgotten in recent years is the craft, the thing that just like the thing that makes people feel something about something, right? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, I do think people might be more complex than we give them credit for. Like,
Yeah.
people still can't foresee why things go viral on TikTok, why things catch on, why things happen the way they do. And one reason for that is the fact that people are quite complex creatures when it comes to things, right? And getting people to do what you want them to do is partly, a numbers game and data, and like, you can increase
7 touches and whatever.
Exactly. But it is also sometimes about just having the experience, the taste, the feel, the Fingerspitzengefühl, whatever you want to call it, to actually make that happen. And but I just think that we have, or the thing I've been trying to infuse into Klarna is like high tech, high touch kind of feel, like extremely high tech in our products, in our marketing, in our stack, and all of that, but combined with a very, very high touch, right? Because I also truly believe, I've said this before, I truly believe in aesthetics. I truly believe in beauty. I think that at the end of the day, everything will become beautiful, right? And we spoke about that when it comes to, like, if you were to ask me 10 years ago, like, are trade shows beautiful? Hell no. Trade shows,
that's still true at a lot.
it is not true. Like,
well, not here. I'm just
impressed by walking around her. And I think the most boring industries in the world, at some stage in their maturity, aesthetics will set in. Feel, taste, beauty will set in. That is not only for consumer brands, right? We're gonna, like, OpenAI and Johnny Ive is just the,
oh my God,
like, one more,
have you ever met Johnny Ive?
I haven't.
I just had this hunch he had. I don't know.
But you know what? Honestly, like, when I'm listening to you, it just reminds me so much of this, like, Steve Jobs clip that I love, which is when he's talking about marketing and what people get wrong. And he's like, Nike doesn't sell shoes.
For the American listeners, he's talking about Nike.
Apple doesn't sell computers. They sell feelings, right? Like, it's, and like, that's the thing that gets forgotten about. And I think that's the point around the aesthetics too, right? Like, even here at Money 2020, I think one thing we do well is, you have this feeling when you come here that it's different and it makes you feel a certain something. And
about yourself too, not about Money 2020, about like
exactly.
I feel a way about me. I identify with this thing.
Exactly. And I think that's so important. I think like, especially in B2B, like, and especially in financial services now, where because of fintech and there's so much optionality, there's so many different things, like how you make a customer feel must be such a big part of it, right? Like I always tell Zach this, I've been using Monzo for like 7 years since it first came out. And I first got it because I used to work in my parents' restaurant, and I'd see all of the like young people, and I was still pretty young then too, but obviously not.
You still are, Mickey.
And I still am. Thank you, Zach. But I would see people using these hot coral cards, right? Like I'd never seen a bank card that looked that interesting. And then at some point I was like, okay, what is this? Let me check this out. Found out it was Monzo. It was like 2017 at this point. I've never left because then that was a good hook. But since then, the aesthetics of it, the way you navigate the UI, the UX, everything gives you that kind of feeling that it is aesthetically pleasing. It is a great experience. And I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think that people get brand wrong many times. They think it's these big things, it's these big Super Bowl ads, whatever it is, right? Often it's in the small tactile feelings, like how does a swipe feel? How does a click feel? In the words of Johnny Ive, like how does it feel to open the box? Like those kind of things really, really build a brand. But I think most importantly is like, there's always been this either or kind of thing. Like, do we do brand or do we do perform? Like, the trick is doing both. Like that's the trick for I think the very successful brands do both. They don't choose between being, an aesthetic artist that only does these complex kind of artworks, brandish kind of thing, or a data scientist who only does Excel sheet optimization, right? Like, how do you combine these two things? That's the trick.
And that's my next question. How do you?
I don't even know if we've.
Like, I don't know if
I don't know if we've succeeded. But again, I do think like design is such a big thing. Like design runs through everything we do. Design is really at the heart of like. To me, it's important. Like if you look at I think we released our Q1 report a couple of weeks ago or last week or something like that. That looks pretty yummy, right? You can
everything you guys put out seems as though every detail has been considered.
Exactly, and I think one thing is every detail has been considered, but I do think there is some sort of ripple effect for that, because at least theoretically what you learned in school was like if a brand like Klarna, if a company like Klarna cares this much about making their report look good, they must be a company that cares. And if they're a company that cares, maybe they care about this stuff as well. Then they probably care about this stuff as well, right? So I think one thing is just the face value of being more visually appealing and pleasing. I think that makes a lot of sense, right? But the other thing is like a company that truly cares about every single detail, almost most importantly, every single boring detail. That is probably a company that cares about their customer. Yeah. Because the customer is way more important than the boring detail. And if they care about that, they probably care about the customer. And then, like, I've told myself at least that stacks up somehow.
I mean, it seems like the more that we could get humanity and everything you're talking about injected into financial services, the better. Because the other piece of this is trust, right? Like at the end of the day, if you're doing all of that, yes, investors will love it, all of that kind of stuff, but every detail in the app and like that consumer experience being what it is also is very important there. So, and I'm curious, like listening to you talk, it sounds like you're very involved in product as well.
I mean, we are,
or involved, maybe not.
We are I wouldn't call us a startup, but we're a big company that operates like a small one. So the management team, I think we're 7 in total. I should know. I would know if I count them, obviously, but 7 or 8 in total. We care about almost every aspect of the company. And I do think, I mean, only caring about marketing and not about product, that wouldn't work. Right? Yeah. So I'm very heavily involved in everything that is consumer facing and making sure that, the promise that I put out in the market, because I can't do more than promise things in marketing, right? The product actually has to live up to that, right? I usually get the question, hey, do you run any loyalty campaigns? Like, what I can do with marketing, I can't even get people to use the product. I can increase the probability of someone wanting to use the product. But once they use the product, that is where the magic happens. That is where we build the brand. That is where the loyalty comes through. And that is why it's so immensely important to me to involve myself in that. And that is why we don't have these divisions. Hey, you do marketing over there and then product over there. Because, I mean, I know from other companies that is also the root of very many, conflicts in the management team.
And bad product.
Yeah, the product always says marketing has failed. Sales says marketing isn't sending them leads. Product says that sales is over delivering. So we're really trying to mix things up. So obviously the title and my LinkedIn says CMO, but like we do so many different things in the management team at Klarna. Good.
I mean, I think that's it's funny that you said you didn't want to just do philosophy, because you have such a philosophical way of looking at it. I mean, from the aesthetic piece, because I'm thinking all of that's what makes humans, right? Is our ability to appreciate beauty. And I feel like when you start interweaving that and thinking every single customer has that capability to appreciate beauty, that's when you start helping customers and yourself kind of connect, right? Like it really has to, but sometimes I think there's, there used to be too much focus on function, on just this product works, that's all that matters. But actually, you have to appreciate that people have the ability and the desire to kind of want to experience something.
Exactly, and I think especially in the age of AI, the things that aren't desirable, they will be automated away. Like they will happen in the background. They won't even require design or UI or anything like that. Like buying toilet paper online, like restocking on toothpaste, like that is going to be automated, like completely automated. We don't have to talk about like, oh, how do I make that experience like visually appealing? That's not the thing. But I do think more time will then, both from companies and the consumers, will be spent on like things that actually matter.
Does beauty become more important in the age of AI?
Yeah, but massively so. Yeah, massively so. I truly believe there's something to it. And I spoke to my wife once upon it, like about like where people get married. Even the people who don't believe in aesthetics, and people who aren't Christians, they prefer a church over a warehouse for getting married.
Yeah.
I can't describe that, but just the feeling, the aesthetics, the beauty, like.
Well, and we are herd animals.
Exactly, but like just imagine that, like, oh, we're getting married. Where? In a warehouse? Like, what? Why would you do that? Like, you want the most beautiful place on earth, even if you're not a big believer in aesthetics, even if you're not religious,
or at least like, even if you tell yourself you're not a big believer, there is like this innateness in you, right? Like, I think it's, and this kind of makes me feel like this is one of the challenges with marketing too, right? Like when you were talking about the virality of some TikToks, etc., it's easy to explain after the fact why something went viral. You could, because it did. But in reality, a lot of it is something you can't just bottle up. And that's I think what you were talking about, right? Like a lot of, from the way you're describing it, your job is to create the best probability for someone to enjoy something, but you can't guarantee that they will. And it's the same with aesthetics too. It's like you want to make, but you can't guarantee that it's going to appeal to every single person.
Yeah, you can't make Hawk 2 in an algorithm.
No. And I think like for me, the big, like if we look at my industry specifically, right, or our joint industry, I think we fool ourselves if we think that people are loyal to a feature.
Oh yeah, or
like the thing people are loyal to is a feeling that a company, like a feature, gives you, right? Because what we do is basically we enable people to pay for things online. It's freaking hard, obviously, but a lot of companies here enable people to pay for things. We enable people to split a payment in 4 parts. Technically, with underwriting and stuff like that, pretty hard, but still, like a lot of companies can do that, right? The course we set out on is to say, hey, we offer these features, but they're also wrapped in something that resonates with consumers.
Yeah.
Right? It is not, if we believe that people are loyal to our ability to split a payment in 4.
That actually is just a funny sentence.
No,
yeah.
it's
so fair.
And some believe that because, I mean, like maybe I shouldn't say this, but like our ability to split a payment in four and PayPal's ability to split a pay, it's still four. Like,
It feels
it's
different.
the math.
Yeah,
the
but
math is
it
the
feels
same,
different
right?
when you get to the end of the day.
And that's the thing, and I think that has been part of the success as well. Because if we look at it, Nike.
Did PayPal hear us? If you're at home listening to this later, something very loud just happened as soon as David said that.
No, but if we speak about Nike again, I mean, Nike has spent billions on building a brand that people love and a brand that people want to indulge in online.
Mm-hmm.
Why would Nike team up with someone who fucks that experience up just because you come to the checkout, right? So what we've tried to build is to really, just resonate with the experience that a lot of our merchants and partners have built up, right? So I also feel that we were at least one of the first who tried to replicate the excitement and enjoyment from buying things online, right? And continuing that feeling and not like cutting that feeling off and it's like meeting a lawyer in the checkout.
Yeah, like the transaction's done, see you later. More of a relationship.
I mean, I think like the thing with Klarna is, and the way you know that is, it's become a cultural phenomena, right? Like it's literally become like payments is a boring thing. Like no one wants, like you have to do it.
It's a commodity, yeah.
But it's not like an experience that like of course companies are trying to change it. But like if you look at like, especially with the younger generation, Klarna is like a cultural phenomenon. And I think that really speaks to all of the things that you've been saying around like the way you approach the
very much.
products.
And I think that brings up a point that I've been working on a lot in the last 8 years. And that is, how do you convey a message? How do you make people trust you? But the most fundamental thing, how do you make people listen to you? Because there are hundreds, not thousands, hundreds of companies here today who have great products. One of their biggest issues is like, who's going to listen to their proposition?
Yep.
So sometimes when people ask me like, oh, did you partner with Snoop Dogg only to grab attention and get like, maybe to some extent, but I would reframe that. Like me talking about splitting a payment in 4 parts, like no one is going to listen. Who would listen to that?
I'm on the edge of my seat, but I think that's just because we're nerds.
But Snoop Dogg talking about that,
yeah,
that's a completely different story, right? So one of the biggest challenges today for us as well, like how do you make people listen to an inherently boring message, right? Because I mean, Spotify has different challenges, right? But whenever they talk, it's about Jay-Z and Taylor Swift, and like people are going to listen, right? When I speak, I talk about digital payments on alternative payment methods and spreading the cost, right? People are not gonna.
It's not.
They're not gonna turn off their Game of Thrones episode, whatever.
I mean, if you're speaking here, you'll get mobbed.
Yeah.
But maybe on the streets of Amsterdam, it's
yeah. So that has been a big part of our strategy, right? How do we make sure that people actually, because listening is the first, like, unless someone's listening, it doesn't matter what kind of message you have. And I think a lot of companies, especially on the B2B side, they don't understand how high the bar is in order to make someone stop whatever they're doing and giving 5 seconds, 30 seconds, 5 minutes, whatever time you need, and say, you know what, I'm going to put this aside and I'm going to listen to you, right?
Yeah.
The bar for that is set at it's an immensely high bar now in this TikTok age.
Yeah, well, and if you just watch the news at this point, I mean, my president has probably said something crazy today that'll, lead that for a period of time, and then, tariffs are up, tariffs are down.
There's X on the beach. There is.
It's all wild. This just kind of struck me, and we've never even talked about this, and I'm very curious your answer and perception around this. But listening to you talk, it actually sounds like you're moving in the direction of taking a split in 4 payments company and turning it into a luxury brand.
I don't think it is a luxury brand, right?
Does it mirror one in any way? It seems like a lot of the things you were just saying have a lot of that same overlap, where there is that loyalty, there is that kind of like, you maybe want people to even know that you're using.
I think what you said is interesting, and I see it kind of that, but in a different way.
I just wanted you to say yes, David. That was the goal.
I think it's like Why like luxury? Why is luxury tied to like aesthetics? Is traditionally tied to
I think
wealth
that's why I
and
went
money,
that way.
right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
that's
But I
the
think
thing.
the point here, the way I'm understanding it, is like, actually, if it works for, you know, Gucci or Louis Vuitton, why wouldn't it work for payments and for something everyone can use, right? I think that's the way I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, and I alluded to that this morning as well. But when I took over the brand and the marketing at Klarna, right, one of the main things we've done is not to look like a luxury brand. If I would summarize our consistent strategy in the last 8 years, it is to do the opposite of what the industry has been doing. Because all of the research for the last 8 years has shown that banks specifically is one of the most distrusted categories in the world, right?
You didn't need the research, but yeah.
Lower trust than politicians, which is like
Crazy
that
to
requires
think.
some work.
Crazy
That
to
requires
think.
some hard work. Lower trust than social media.
Yep.
Right. So banks are usually at the very bottom of who people trust. Right. And then you look at how banks look. They're blue. They're boring. They're male. They're all of those attributes suited up. Not like me.
I feel like you're pointing at me, David. He just keeps doing this in my direction, taking it personally.
Of the things we did was just not to replicate that model, because why would we want to replicate a model that seems broken from a marketing perspective? Like
Sure.
from a revenue perspective, prosperous. From a marketing brand perspective, not very strong, right? So I would not whatsoever call us a luxury brand, but like we are in many ways like a modern digital bank, right? A new version of what's out there.
I guess you can't really be a luxury brand when you're trying to be as approachable as you are. I think luxury is
We have 100 million consumers.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
luxury is something else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It does seem like there's a lot of overlap, and I'm just going to stop with it there because I like my opinion. I'm curious. So I want to go ahead if you had something.
Yeah, I think I want to kind of maybe take a step back, because we talked about your start in the marketing world, but like, what was the start at Klarna? Like, what was the kind of backstory, and how did you end up at Klarna?
So the backstory was basically that I was the CEO of the agency that worked with Klarna.
Whoa.
Wow. You must have been them. They were like, okay, this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Stockholm is a great place for startups, but Stockholm is also small, so we know each other somehow. So me and Sebastian, the founder of Klarna, we went to the same school. So after half year or year of work with Klarna, it was like, it's way more exciting to be on the client side than agency side. And yeah, it took me a while to decide, because I back then I truly appreciated the agency side. I used to run DDB in the Nordics.
That's what I was just like. I was trying to figure out where you were when that happened.
Exactly.
Yep.
And then I transitioned to Klarna. And I mean, it's a double-edged sword to be in a founder-led company, but I have been very lucky to work with an ambitious founder who hasn't been confined by the public market per se yet, but has been still have had the ability to work on his vision, fulfill his vision. So, I mean, I started there, granted almost a blank piece of paper. And he said, like, hey, we're this today. We're a Swedish blue B2B tech company. There is a massive opportunity for us to build consumer preference. Let's do it together and do what you need to do.
You said you took a while to decide. What was like the tipping? What was it that said?
So I think, there's another great startup, and not a startup, but another great company in Stockholm, Spotify. And
Wow. So was it between Spotify?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean,
It's a good position to be in.
the ego obviously, to some extent, wanted to join Spotify, right? Jay-Z, music, album drops,
Yeah.
parties.
It'd be a good time. Be a good time.
It'd be a good time.
Yeah.
But from a challenge perspective, taking something, as I said, that is inherently boring and turning it into something was maybe not even a bigger challenge, because I usually think about like turning Klarna from boring to cool is way easier than taking Nike from cool to coolest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So to some extent, it was easy. I just looked at all the boring bankers and said, I'm not going to do that. We're going to do this instead. So fairly easy work, right?
But risky. I mean, I feel like you were probably putting your neck on the line, granted, with someone you went to college with who was innately trying to disrupt the industry. But I'm sure you tried some new things that made you a little bit nervous at some points.
Yeah, exactly. But I chose Klarna because of the challenge. And I think, right, the kind of thinking I brought to Klarna, we've seen more and more of that thinking with fintechs, with B2B companies, with like, as I said, I think we're just on a maturing journey for many industries. And there will come a point in time where brand, marketing, aesthetics, all the tactile stuff become important to anyone, anywhere, B2B, fintech, whatever it is. But that is how I started with the, basically with the ambition to try to turn Klarna into what Amex once did 30 years ago, when there was like true consumer preference for a financial brand.
And we come back to my luxury again, eventually.
Exactly. Exactly. But then the question is like, what is luxury per se nowadays? And
Philosophy.
Klarna has been a lot about democratizing both financial services, but also like, why on earth do all of the, like free cards, like just the free credit, they look like crap. And then the pay, like the Amex one, like there is no real reason for it, right? Of course, you can like say that some of the materials cost a bit more to produce, but there's no reason why the amount of love for the broad product shouldn't be the same as the amount of love you put into the niche product. Yeah. And I think that is what we have been doing.
I think so too. I mean, it reminds me of the first time I got an Apple Card. And like that, like I don't use it much anymore, but have you had one of these? Have you guys had an Apple Card?
I haven't, but I've seen it.
The activation process is unbelievable. You just take it out of literally take it out of the thing, put it on your phone, and it's activated.
Yeah.
That's it. It's ridiculous. It's like the little things like that I feel like you guys have been leaning into and continue to, that separate you from a pack in just such a significant way.
But yeah, that's the thing, man. I think like so much of, and even in fintech, I think even now there's so much of it that's so focused on function and not in terms of how you make people feel. Like you said, like the moment you're getting a product like a card and it's just so easy to do that, it just makes you like, wow, okay, this product is really good. It must be good all the way to the end of it, right? Like from every step backwards. So it means they care about me. They like, if I have some issue with it, it's probably going to be easily dealt with, because you're signaling ultimately, right? Like that's what it's about. You're signaling to customers, like with the financial results. If you're worried, I don't know. When I used to be an analyst, I would have to go into bank financials statements. Oh my God.
Well, they don't. They're not incentivized in the same way. They'd prefer you not understand it.
The Nespresso Coke is not enough.
I guess another question.
But I also, like, to that point, I also think that I think community, it's cheesy to talk about community, but I do think a lot of people want to or have to identify themselves when choosing a brand, choosing a product, right? Who do I become? Who am I as a person using this product, right? And this is what we think about a lot as well, right? Who do we want, or what do we want the consumers to feel like when using Klarna, or for the not pink Monzo card, the coral Monzo card. Like you became someone, right? Using that card, that was. I think brands tell you a lot about the person using the brand as well. And I think we've thought a lot about like, what kind of feeling do we want the user to convey to their surroundings by using Klarna? And like, okay, if you saw a person here with a Klarna t-shirt on, not working at Klarna, obviously, like, what would you read into that? What kind of person is that versus a person coming with an Amex shirt or with a Revolut shirt or with Chase, whatever it is, right? But we've spent quite a lot of time on thinking about like, who is that person? What do we want their surroundings to think about them? And how do we amplify that feeling in the product and design and how things work? And like showing off the Apple Card, like at something.
Yeah.
Like they
Lands on the table with a metal thud.
exactly, exactly. You probably care more about design than finances.
For sure. Yeah. I think even on all of us that are deep into real-time payments and concerned about the infrastructure of it, like as soon as I have to buy something, I want to flex.
Exactly.
You know, it's an emotional thing. And so we have a few minutes left, and after everything we've been talking about, I hope Mickey doesn't mind, and I hope you don't mind, but I have to shift it into more of a you direction.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems as though you show up in the world in a very thoughtful way. Like it seems like you put yourself together so that people experience you in a certain way when you show up. And a lot of what we've been talking about is, you know, the association of a brand and of this and of that. I guess I'm just curious how you think about your own personal identity, personal brand. Like how do you think about kind of like how you've created yourself to show up in the world? Because like I met you backstage this morning at Nature.
He was raving about you, by the way.
Yeah, I was just like, that guy just has energy like that. Like granted, there's a certain amount of like, if you just have energy, it doesn't matter how you look or how you show up or if you have a tattered t-shirt or whatever, but you walked in the room and the energy shifted. And there's not like a lot of people that really can do that. And I don't think it was just your energy. I think it's how you show up, glasses, certain things that make you look as though you probably ran an advertising agency at some point. So I guess I'm just curious how conscious that is.
I mean, it's not conscious per se that I like try on different outfits in the morning and post selfies and get upvotes and stuff like that. But I do think, I mean, everything communicates, right?
I wasn't meaning you're a douchebag. I was meaning that you show up positively.
No, but I do think everything communicates, and I don't take myself very seriously, but I have a very hard time separating between the professional self, like this is me. I don't do anything else. Like when it sounds boring when people ask about my hobbies. Like this is my hobby, not payments per se, but like marketing, communication, go to market, like that's me. I don't.
You founded an underwear company.
That's true, but that is a separate story, separate podcast.
All right, well, we'll keep that for later.
No, but to me, like this is my hobby, right? I don't golf, I don't sail, I don't do Formula One or watch Formula. Like this is what I do, and I'm very interested in brands, personal and company brands. I'm very interested in aesthetics. I'm very interested in communication. As I said, like I think, you know, people read that. If you look at marketing as well, right? You usually don't get more than 5 to 10 seconds of people's attention. Maybe
if you're lucky.
Exactly. And maybe that holds true for people as well, right? Maybe if you just run it like...
More than maybe. I think that definitely
the first 5-10 seconds count, and maybe that communicates as well. So I don't like go around... I don't plan it out, but I do think that everything communicates, and I think I'm quite mindful when it comes to how I look, how I come across, and I've also been, you know, reminded several times throughout my career that words matter. Like words are important. That is our way to convey a message, right? And like the bigger leadership positions you get into, the more aware you get of the fact that you can't be too sloppy with how you express yourself. And I didn't really mean that. Well, then think about it.
Yeah. Well, and even before a single word comes out, right? To the point of like how you dress, how you show up. And it's like, partially I ask because I'm fascinated, but also it's something that Mickey and I like off camera and whatnot talk about a lot because, you know, I think we would both like to be in a chief something officer of Klarna someday. But we also like t-shirts a lot, right? And there's a certain amount of like, are we ever going to be able to do that if we do that way? And you're sitting here in a t-shirt. And I think we could probably pull that off.
For sure.
But it's a specific kind of t-shirt. You know, it's like, that's where, anyways. Go ahead, Mickey.
I my mind is still caught on like when you said like you don't have any hobbies, you're kind of just locked in, right? And I interpret that in like very positive way because I think, again, going back to marketing, it kind of closes a little bit of the loop of what we started before, where increasingly there seems to be this idea that you become a very niche specific type of role in marketing, like you know, performance or analytics or copywriting. But actually, marketing is everything, and you have to really know how everything works to be able to be really good at that specific thing. Like you can't really be a good marketer in fintech if you're just a marketer, you have to have a deep care and understanding of how payments or financial services works, because that's the only way you can understand what people are what you're trying to make people feel. And I say all of that to ask you a question. You've been at Klarna for a while now, and you yourself said you started with, basically a blank sheet. What's the thing that you're most proud of? Not necessarily around where you are, but is there like a campaign? Is there a collaboration? Was it ASAP?
ASAP was fun, but there was. I'm not sure I'm proud of it, but I'm pretty proud of it. But as you know, Klarna is a Swedish company with a funny Swedish name that the Americans can't really pronounce. And Americans don't love European companies. They're okay. Most of them think Spotify is from New York. It's not. Right?
None of us know. Yeah, if you actually did a campaign in the U.S. that you're from, that Spotify's from Sweden, probably lose users.
Exactly. So we had 1 year where we said, hey, we need to show up as Americans, right? We need to get our cowboy hats on. So
wow, that's interesting.
We did the Super Bowl, we sponsored the Chicago Bulls, and we did all sorts of things in that year to say, hey guys, we're not this Swedish company with a funny Klarna, with a funny name, right? We're an American company.
America.
Exactly.
There we go, baby.
Exactly. And I'm not saying I'm proud of that, but that was such an interesting experience doing the Super Bowl, all of the stuff around that. Like, it was just, it was interesting becoming American, or as American as a European company can be. Because a lot of European companies try to make it big in the US, and it is freaking hard.
Yeah, I mean,
it's freaking hard, and now the US is our biggest market. So
I mean, I've been in Nashville for about a year, and at the mall there, Klarna was everywhere. Question for you: Super Bowl ad. Did you get goosebumps? I mean, that's such a prime time, having been at Klarna.
What was it like to create? Like, just tell us the story.
I mean, I don't, like, I get more goosebumps from seeing a random person on the street using our products, right? Because the Super Bowl it's fantastic in so many ways, but it's also a, pay to play. Like, if you have enough money, you do it, right? There's no, like, the goosebumps, that's not really an accomplishment. That is a decision to spend money on an event that is absolutely fantastic, way bigger than I could have ever imagined the Super Bowl. Like, how can you be this hyped up and professional about advertising, but they pull it off like an absolutely amazing. It is wild. But it's not, that's not really a proud moment. That is more a decision. Like, to me, it's more like, I don't know, looking at all the consumer comments on how we help them with their finances, how the products make sense in their life, how they had a laugh looking at some of our ads, how they, like, just seeing random people in the wild use our products. That gives me goosebumps.
Yeah. The human side of it, yet again. We keep coming back to it.
Good.
So Klarna, you started out with payments, but you're kind of shifting now too, right? You're starting to move into that territory of those boring banks with the blues.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that next phase of the journey?
I mean, it has always been on our radar. It's just like companies come into this space from different angles. We come in from a payment space, like others come in from a social space, or Google comes in from a different direction. I think, like, what we've set out to do, I think 10 years ago already, we said in a couple of years, 10, 15 years, there are going to be 3 to 4 big global consumer banks, right? Currently, there are none. Most of the big global banks are B2B or VC, whatever it is.
Multiple 100 years old.
Exactly. But there are no real global consumer banks, right? And now I think we're starting to see this vision of the world take shape with Revolut, PayPal, Nubank, us, maybe someone else in that race, right? To become a global consumer bank. And we obviously come from the payment side, having built preference there. Some of them come in from other angles, but that is going to be an interesting race. But yes, we are expanding the portfolio, 100 million users. Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
You're moving into the debit side, right?
Exactly. So we now have a bank account. We have a banking license in Europe, obviously. We've launched the bank account in the US. So yeah, it's more of again, someone needs to own the front end with the consumer, right? And I do think the old banks are still going to be important. I don't think any of the fintechs are going to replace old banks. But like, if we want to become technical, what I believe is that we will see fintechs owning more of the UI and the consumer layer because they understand design, they understand product, they understand that way better. And we're going to see the bigger banks owning more of an infrastructural piece.
They'll run the balance sheet and the income statement. You have the fun.
There you go. But there's good money.
There is. I think we probably have time for one more question each, and then I have to run right there for another session. But I think the thing that I want to ask you most genuinely isn't about Klarna. It's about all your time leading up to Klarna.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if there's a formative moment in any of those advertising agencies or anything like that, or like just one consistent thing that you've learned that you wish the world knew more, specifically non-advertising and non-marketing people, that you kind of find yourself beating people over the head with a lot?
I mean, there are just some learnings that you have to go through yourself that seem obvious when you say them, but people don't really realize them until they go through.
Until they have the pain.
Exactly. And I think one of those learnings for many tech startups, and I don't want to go into specifics, but is like the wait for a liquidity event of some kind. Like most of the startups, fintechs out here dream of that liquidity event. And what I have learned and what I have worked very hard on in recent years is to not emotionally connect myself to that. And it sounds super obvious to talk about, and you would probably say, yeah, of course, why would you? Because it's so freaking hard
to do.
It is so hard to do, like so hard to do. And again, Stockholm being a very dense startup tech scene, we've had so many paper millionaires there who are just waiting for the, like, completely disconnect yourself from that is one of the biggest learnings I've had in the last 5 years.
Yeah. Sounds like you should probably just be working on something you're actually passionate about day to day and have some fun with it.
That's probably also a good idea.
Yeah. Money will come next. Mickey?
I guess my last question is, if we were doing this podcast and 8 years later from now, what's the thing that you think you would have wanted to achieve at Klarna that by then?
I don't know, but like my long-term vision has always been to create a household brand, right? We come from this, like, from the beginning, 8 years ago when I started, like this rebellious, hey, let's bring down the big banks kind of thing. Now we're becoming a big bank, obviously in a new digital shape, right? But becoming a household brand so that not only the conversation in 5 or 8 years, whatever you mentioned, but like maybe in 40 years, not that we're still around, we might have gone bust, whatever it is, right? But in 40 years would be, these guys actually changed the payments game. Right? And do you remember Klarna? Like, in the perfect world, we would still be around, world dominance and all of that, right? But that would be an awesome thing in 40 years' time, having changed the course of payments history to some extent. Sounds cheesy maybe and maybe too big, but I do think that is, like, even if it's just a small nudge in some direction, I think
you guys have
You've already done it.
Yeah.
And,
there we go.
What are you talking about? Like, you've fully already done that to the degree where, like, I mean, whatever, I've said it enough times on here that I guess I don't need to caveat it anymore, but I am not a Robinhood fan because of everything that happens on the back end, high frequency trading, taking advantage of users, like, don't like any of it. But if you think about the impact that they've had on the rest of the industry, you got to love Robinhood.
Yep.
Even though I don't, right? Chime, now everybody's getting their paycheck 2 days early. You know, as you said earlier, the ability to split a payment into 4, that's basically a commodity now.
Interest-free is the big thing. Right?
Sure.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's also all emotional.
There you go. Perfect wrap up.
Exactly. Beautiful. Thank you, David. This has been a blast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.